Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Live Demonstration CyberSaint Crosswalking NIST SP 853 to GDPR. My name is Ethan Bresnahan. I'm the Marketing Director here at CyberSaint, and today I'm excited to be joined by CyberSaint VP of Solutions Architecture, Steve Torino, and Senior Sales Engineer, Michael Blumrich. We're so glad that you could join us today, and with that, I will hand things off to Steve.
Hi, my name is Steve Torino, and I'm Vice President of Solution Architecture here at CyberSaint. I want to thank you for attending this webinar and also provide some background information before we jump into a demonstration of the solution. Crosswalking has been a longstanding challenge in the industry. The reality is that organizations are subject to more than one cybersecurity framework or standard of practice, depending on things like the jurisdictions where they do business, the industries in which they participate, and the types of customers with whom they wish to do business. Most of these standards are covering domains and controls that overlap, at least to some extent. And in theory, this overlap should make things easier to the extent that we can kind of be sure we comply with the control from one framework. We should be able to map it to controls from another framework and know that we've satisfied that requirement as well. In practice, it's a bit more complicated. Although the controls across two or more frameworks may cover similar content, they often have subtle differences. So for example, let's take vulnerability scanning as an example. A framework like NIST might allow for the frequency of vulnerability scanning to be customized to an organization-defined frequency, whereas the corresponding control from another framework may specify the frequency at which vulnerability scans are to be run, so something like once a week or once a month. Yes, those controls do map to each other, but the subtle difference in frequency makes them not an exact match. Another example could be control inheritance. So most of us by now are probably using some cloud services to operate our business. One of the benefits that comes with that is inheriting certain security controls, such as server patching and an infrastructure as a service model, for example. However, there are other controls for which a shared accountability model applies. In other words, we might inherit part of a control from a CSP, but still have to demonstrate requirements around things like maybe access controller configurations in-house. So what's really critical here is to understand the gap between any two frameworks. And organizations have taken various approaches to finding these gaps or doing crosswalks in order to make their lives easier, because as anybody who's done these exercises knows, it can be really challenging and time-consuming. Larger, more complex organizations might roll out something like a large common controls framework, or basically a superset of sorts that can be manually applied across dozens or hundreds of frameworks even. And others might try a method like to rely on the limited set of publicly available crosswalks that are published by authoritative sources like CIS, AICPA, even the informative references to the CSF from NIST. Unfortunately, this is very limited and not available for most frameworks at all. And yet others might work with consultants, bring consultants in and have an engagement to do the crosswalking that they need. What you're going to see today is a demonstration of CyberSaint's unique approach to crosswalking. So whether it's an example of how we can leverage pre-published templates to automate those industry accepted mappings just at the click of a button, or how to use our patented natural language processing technology to create your own templates from any framework to any other framework by identifying control associations with AI provided confidence levels, you're going to see a real world solution that's been custom built to automate the manual and time consuming process of crosswalking controls across frameworks. I hope you enjoy the demo.
In order to complete a crosswalk within the CyberStrong platform, we're going to start in the administration area. So to do so, I'm going to click administration here in the upper right-hand corner. By default, we're going to click into, or by default, you're going to be taken to manage assessments. And then from here, you're going to start the crosswalk process by first, selecting which assessment you want to crosswalk from. In this case, I'm going to be crosswalking from an assessment targeting NIST 853 Rev 5. And next, we're going to kind of reference the actions column and find that crosswalk icon for that assessment we're crosswalking from. So I'm going to click on that. And next, I'm going to select which framework I want to crosswalk into and generate that new assessment. So in this case, I'm going to be doing this for GDPR. So I select GDPR. And where this is going to take me next is to select the different mapping options. So through our natural language processing models, we're assigning out a confidence score. And what this allows is if I only want those mappings that are over 80% confident, I can select that. Mappings over 90%. If there is a pre-created template, then you're able to, you would be able to select that here as well. Or if you're wanting to go through the process and kind of manually leverage the confidence scores, choose your own mappings, you can choose the empty template. That's what I'm going to be choosing here. So I select empty template. I can go control by control and essentially leverage the confidence score, or I can select add top mappings for each control, which is what I'm going to do. From here, I can review those options. So I'm going to click into a control. And again, we have that confidence score. I can add additional mappings if I want. I can remove them. I can do this control by control, or I can just go to my next step. In this case, select next step. And this is the final step, which is naming the new assessment, this crosswalked assessment, and then making a selection of whether or not I want to keep the assessment synced. Essentially, what this allows for is, if you want to, really only manage things from that parent assessment, you can do so. And all changes made at the parent level will roll down to the child assessment, which I'm about to create. I'm going to keep this unsynced, but I will show you what a synced assessment looks like momentarily. Now I'll submit this. And just in a short period of time, we now have a 63% project completed GDPR assessment. Not only through the confidence score, but also the mappings themselves. This is auditable in nature. So you can see here the corresponding control that is mapped from the parent NIST assessment down to the GDPR assessment. And you can also see that I am able to make changes directly to this assessment I'm in. This is because it is unsynced. The biggest difference between this and a synced assessment is you're not able to make direct changes at the child level unless you unsync the control. So in this case, we have a current score of no, not able to make changes unless I unsync it. Or if I'm wanting to make those changes at the parent level, I'm able to do so. So I can go and change that to fully compliant. And I go back and you'll notice that changes automatically from non-compliant to fully compliant or no to yes. This really allows, or crosswalking within our system allows for a, to assess once and apply to many, a very seamless and an effective method for assessing against multiple frameworks in system without having to duplicate efforts and processes. So a big value within crosswalking in the CyberStrong solution.
Thank you everyone for attending today's webinar. As always, if you're interested in learning more about CyberSaint's AI-backed crosswalking capabilities, please feel free to reach out info@cybersaint.io or visit us at cybersaint.io. We'll see you soon.